Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to thanks having me here. My name is Pahu Xie, and yeah, I'm super excited because you know when I look back, I first started using Gitpod. It was like 3 years ago, and it's a 2020 May 21st, if I can still remember. So it was amazing, and I was still in Taiwan. I never thought I would be here to sharing my Gitpod experience on AWS. Okay, so a little bit about myself. My name is Pahu Xie. Actually, I have a Chinese name Xie Hongen, but I represent myself as Pahu on Twitter. I joined AWS in 2016 in Taiwan, and I was a solution architect looking at Taiwan customers, different industry. And I transfer different roles, including serverless specialist SA, and focusing on anything around serverless, and also developer advocate. We build AWS solutions with CDK, which is Cloud Development Kit, and then I transferred to community manager last year, and I relocated from Taiwan to New York City last year, and now I'm the senior solutions architect in AWS SDKs and tools team, and I focus on AWS CDK. So before I introduce AWS CDK, let's go back to 2011. So think about it. When you first time using AWS, your first time bring up an EC2 instance or create a VPC, what is your experience looks like? It's kind of like, going to the AWS console, click the button, create the EC2 instance. Whoa, it's amazing. But think about it, when things getting more and more complicated, you probably will have to provision a lot of different AWS instances. It's not possible for you to just click the button on AWS console. So when we go back to 2011, AWS announced a service. It's called CloudFormation, and during that time, the infrastructure as code was still not a thing, because people are still create cloud resource just with share scripts or just with some AWS CLI command, and the CloudFormation introduced a way to allow us to define what our cloud workload or cloud resource looks like with the template. And during that time, the template was a JSON template, right? So it's really exciting during that time, because it's the first time people can define their cloud resource as a JSON template. And you can define different recipes to define different collections of cloud resource, put them together, so the CloudFormation can help you provision your cloud workload. But when your workload getting more and more complicated, it is really crazy for you to have a JSON or YAML template with thousands of lines like that. It's crazy. It's not maintainable. It's not easy for you to debug or to reuse. It's also not possible for you to edit in the IDE to help you debug, troubleshooting, or make it, for example, object-oriented. For example, it's not possible. So if we look at the CloudFormation, in the beginning, it allows you to define your cloud resource with JSON, and after a few years, you can define in YAML. And it's just like a blueprint. You define the template and you submit to the CloudFormation, which is a provision engine. And CloudFormation helps you to provision everything on AWS. So that is where the infrastructure as code comes in. And after a few years, we have different developer tools, so for example, like Terraform, or like different tools to allow developers to provision their cloud infrastructure and tools. So in 2019, AWS introduced a new developer tools, AWS CDK. AWS CDK stands for AWS Cloud Development Kit. So AWS CDK allows you to, define your cloud infrastructure or cloud workload with the programming language you already be familiar with. For example, JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, Java, C#, even Golang, which is amazing because developer we tend to work with our favorite IDE or either VS Code or JetBrains or IntelliJ, and we love to define our workload with our familiar language instead of JSON of thousands of lines of JSON or YAML. So this is an interesting developer tool to allow us to define our cloud resource in our favorite IDE. So if we look at how CDK works, it's generally support modern language like JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, Java, Golang, and C#. And the core concept of CDK is the construct. So construct is something just like a box or like a container. So think about it. This room could be a construct, and every component in this room, like a chair, like a desk, could be a resource. So think about it in cloud. Every single chair could be a container. For example, this box could be a Kubernetes cluster. And in the Kubernetes cluster, we need to run a lot of pods, for example, and we probably have to run the Helm chart. So every resource could be running inside this construct. So CDK allows us to define an abstraction of construct to define our workload. For example, I'm going to define this workload as my fancy web service. And this fancy web service literally running in the Amazon EKS or Kubernetes environment. And the Kubernetes environment is running with some services or ingress or ingress controllers or Helm charts, anything I can define in CDK. So when I for example, in my IDE, I just bring up the whole stack simply by instantiate this construct by, for example, new, my fancy service, then everything, VPC or routing table or security group, IAM roles, policies, EKS cluster, ECR, repository, everything will be automatically provisioned, which is amazing. And it allows you to publish your constructs as library to npm.js, to PyPI, to allow your internal developers or external communities to reuse your construct to build their constructs on top of yours. So that is super amazing to allow developers to build their workloads on AWS. So think about it. For example, for example, previously in AWS, if we are gonna build a REST API with Amazon API Gateway, think about it. In CloudFormation, you probably have to write, hundreds of YAML to define how API Gateway looks like. But in AWS CDK, we have some native level 2 constructs. For example, in this case, we have API Gateway, REST API. So simply in AWS CDK, you just new the API Gateway, REST API. By default, it provisions a RESTful API for you. So this is really amazing. But behind the scene, AWS CDK synthesized into CloudFormation. But you don't really have to deal with CloudFormation templates. So before AWS CDK, people have to handwrite or generate CloudFormation templates or dealing with the raw template in JSON or YAML. But in after AWS CDK, all you have to do is dealing with the programming language you're already familiar with in your favorite IDE. And CDK synthesized into hundreds or thousands of lines of CloudFormation template, which you don't have to know what it's really about, because that template will immediately go to CloudFormation to help you provision anything, provision the real world in AWS. So just in 2020, AWS CDK team, we first noticed that whoa, there's something really interesting, Gitpod. And we first introduced, we first include Gitpod in our contributing guide, and really appreciate this is our one of our core team maintainers. And it was also this PR to allow me to know that, oh, okay, this Gitpod is really interesting. So we officially included Gitpod in 2020, probably in May 2020. And yeah, and today, if you look at our AWS CDK GitHub contributing guide, we have Gitpod is our first CDE. We recommend our contributors to contribute to AWS CDK. And you don't have to know how to set up everything, because we have configured everything for our contributors, including our container images with our tool chains for this open source project. You don't need to know how to install the Node.js 14 or 16 or 18, how to install NPM or our debugging tool. No, everything is included in our tool chain image in the Gitpod definition. So all you have to do is just click the button, open in Gitpod, and just in a few seconds, the contributors can just ready to code, just jump into something they really want to fix, rather than consider how to set up everything. So they can immediately jump into the problem, get it fixed, submit the PR, and get it reviewed and get it merged. And just after a few days, get a new released, and everyone in the world can enjoy the feature you contribute, which is really amazing. So in AWS CDK, we have a Superchain Docker image, which includes everything in this container image. And this image is literally auto-generated by GitHub Actions. So as a contributor, I don't need to know how to set up my local environment, because there's no local environment. Everything is already included in these container images. And we define these container images in the Gitpod YAML, which means you open and a customized environment with everything bundled, included, is ready for you. So this is one thing which is really amazing, is that we provide a container image out of the box for our contributors. And one thing we really super excited is the pre-building capabilities, which is really, really amazing, because AWS CDK is essentially in TypeScript. So when you open the repository, you have to build up everything, compile the TypeScript into JavaScript. And this typically takes more than 20 minutes. So as a contributor, I cannot spend 20 minutes just wait for everything built up before I start my hack, right? So the pre-building capabilities is really amazing, because every time when you open the Gitpod workspace, everything is pre-built for you. You don't have to wait anything to be built up. So if you look at our recent PR, it potentially have our contributor to saving more than 21 minutes, which is crazy. If I try to set up my local environment, I probably will figure out how to get everything configure like 30 minutes and try to build out everything with another 20 minutes. So I don't want to write a PR anymore. so this is very, very exciting for our contributors. And AWS CDK allows our developers to, publish their own constructs. For example, I can define my fancy service or fancy platform. And in this fancy platform, I define an EKS cluster. I define some Helm chart installed. I define some load balancer. Everything just like my recipe. I put them together and I get it published as my construct. And in AWS CDK, we have a construct hub, which allows our community to publish their construct, just like a recipe. So in this construct hub, we have a lot of constructs from our community to publish their CDK construct in this repository. So people can reuse their construct or build high-level constructs on top of that. So as a CDK user or community or a contributor, what we can do with GitHub when we build our personal constructs. So I'm introducing ProGen. So ProGen is another open source developer tool initially created by AWS CDK team. ProGen allows us to generate everything required for a project, like a TypeScript project, like a Node.js project, like a Python project. You don't have to know everything like GitHub workflow, how to define your GitHub action workflow, how to define your TypeScript config, how to define your a lot of configuration. You just define in your favorite language like JavaScript or TypeScript like this. Then when you run ProGen, it synthesizes everything, the configuration files for you. So all you have to focus is this single file. For example, in this case, I can just import Gitpod, my Gitpod class. So if you are familiar with Gitpod, they have that Gitpod YAML. It's essentially like a YAML file, but you don't have to deal with that YAML file. You deal with that in your JavaScript or TypeScript like this. So you just include Gitpod, and you just define your custom pre-built task looks like with JavaScript or TypeScript like this, and you define your initialization command, define your what VS Code extensions you are gonna create. Just define everything in the JavaScript or TypeScript like this, and when you run ProGen, it synthesizes the Gitpod YAML for you. It's auto-generated. Okay, so when we open a new repository, and we run ProGen, see the Gitpod YAML file is auto-generated. You don't have to deal with handwriting the Gitpod YAML for you. So when things getting more and more complicated, you only have to focus on your single JavaScript or TypeScript with the Gitpod class. And okay, so when you dealing with CDE like this, it's essentially not really running in your AWS VPC. So one thing you really care about is like how to authenticate with AWS, how to configure your AWS CLI, and how to securely get it configured. So one thing in AWS, we recommend to use the AWS IAM Identity Center, as known as AWS SSO. So in this demo, I'm gonna show you how to get everything configured in Gitpod with AWS SSO. So you you don't really have to configure your AWS CLI. You just generate everything in the AWS in the GitHub workspace. Okay, this is a pre-recorded demo. Okay, so in this example, I'm open a new empty repository on GitHub, opening into a GitHub workspaces, and it's empty, so nothing there. But so nothing there. So if I'm run AWS version, no, there's no AWS CLI. If I'm run kubectl, no, there's no kubectl. So as a developer, I would like to install the latest CLI. So in this sample, I am running a script. I will explain this script later. So in this example, I'm running this script to first install the first AWS CLI for me. Second, install the latest kubectl for me. And third, generate AWS CLI configuration for me. Last but not least, I'm gonna run AWS SSO login. Now, when I run AWS SSO login, it essentially pop up a login page from the AWS SSO for me. So I need to provide first my my password predefined in the AWS SSO, and second, I need to provide a MFA, for example, YubiKey, or if you are an iPhone user, you can provide your Face ID or or your Touch ID. So you provide what you know and what you have, and you will get authenticated. So in this case, I'm providing password first, and second, I'm providing my YubiKey Touch or iPhone Touch ID or Face ID. Then I get authenticated, and then I switch back to my GitHub workspaces. Now I'm authenticated. So it is our recommended practice to get authenticated with AWS when you are out of the AWS VPC or out of AWS without providing any static or credentials. So you get you authenticate AWS with an assumed role with predefined privilege, so you can interact with AWS SDK or AWS API. Okay, so if you look at the AWS config, it is pre-generated for you. You don't, by opening a fresh GitHub workspaces running this script, this AWS config pre-generate for you. Of course, you have to customize it with your AWS account ID and your, for example, SSO start URL, for example. You can pre-configure that, and but you don't have to store anything or sensitive in the environment variable or in the setting, because you are authenticated against the AWS SSO. So if we look at the script, it's essentially a shell script. You define how to install the latest AWS CLI, define how to install kubectl. You define how to generate your AWS config with a here document like this. So it's essentially a shell script. And to move a little bit further, you probably will ask, why a shell script? Can we just wrap up everything into a Bootstrap script like this, and we can define in the GitHub YAML as init script. So when every developer open the GitHub workspace, it gets configured, get pre-executed when you open the workspace. Yeah. So in this case, I put everything in this Bootstrap script. So next time when I open my Gitpod workspaces, okay, I got my latest AWS CLI, latest kubectl CLI, latest everything I need. I don't have to wait for it because it's already there. All I have to do is just run AWS SSO login, and I can bring up my iPhone, smile, and I'm in. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, I'm in. So this is, yeah. So I really love, making open source contributions with Gitpod because it allows me to, bundle everything, customize everything, either by building a customized Docker image as my workspace base image, or I can predefine a Bootstrap script like this and make it executed in init scripts like this. So when I open a workspace like this, I'm ready. I'm authenticated already. I'm ready to go. So it is super amazing to allow us. Everything is already there, out of box. I just go straight into the problem I'm gonna get it fixed, click a button to submit my PR, waiting for review, on approval, and just after a few days, we got a new release of AWS CDK, and then the whole world of AWS community can enjoy my contribution. That is really, really amazing. Okay, wrapping up. So first, using Cloud ID with pre-bundled toolchain container image whenever possible, and always ready to code. So the container image is really important because by default, Gitpod offers you a default universal image, which is fine. But as you notice, there's probably something you still would like to include. For example, AWS CLI or kubectl, or for example, Helm CLI, anything you probably would need. So make sure you customize the container image with another pipeline, CI/CD pipeline, and always specify your custom container image for in your Gitpod YAML. So you have everything included out of the box. And second, make it ephemeral. So ephemeral means that when you deal with your IDE, sometimes you just get it screwed up, and you're crazy. You try to get it fixed. Okay, so no, don't get it fixed. Just destroy it. You should just destroy it and open another one. Because when you open another one, everything is so fresh. Everything is up to date. You can immediately, continue your work. You don't waste your time to get it fixed. Just destroy it. And third, always customize your text in Gitpod YAML. Gitpod YAML is an amazing definition, especially for the pre-building. Pre-building potentially help you to save a lot of time if your task requires some build up. So make sure to define your Gitpod YAML for the pre-building, and avoid handwriting in your Gitpod YAML. At this moment, Gitpod YAML probably is not that complicated. You can just simply edit in the IDE, but who knows? It could get more and more complicated. So with Progen, you can just generate the Gitpod YAML by defining the definition in JavaScript or TypeScript, which is amazing. So consider using Progen to generate the Gitpod YAML. And use AWS IAM Identity Center for secretless authentication in the cloud identity whenever possible. So you have what you know, what you have, and you don't have to offer anything to any third party. Just authenticate with AWS SSO and get yourself authenticated, and you are ready to code. Okay, that's all. Thank you. I hope you enjoy my talk.
Questions, but we'll do after. We don't have time for questions, but we will be hanging out. So if you have any questions, then feel free to ask that. Awesome. Thank you so much.